Hi, this is Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, and you're listening to Briefings Direct. Our next enterprise architecture discussion explores how a comprehensive portfolio of open standards and associated best practices powerfully supports digital business transformation. As companies chart a critical course to adopt agility using artificial intelligence-driven benefits, they need proven and actionable structure to help deepen customer relationships, improve internal processes, and heighten business value outcomes. Stay with us now as we explore how the Open Group's latest digital portfolio of standards and methods, some 40 years in the making, instructs innovation internally to match the demands of a rapidly changing, increasingly competitive, and analytics-intensive global marketplace. Here to explore how a strategically architected way to do business across your organization to avert disruption and spur innovation is our expert guest. Joining me now, and please join me in welcoming, we have Sonia Gonzalez, Digital Portfolio Product Manager at the Open Group. Welcome, Sonia.
Well, thank you very much, Dana, for having me here, and really happy to talk about this exciting topic.
Yes, it's a very interesting time, and there's lots of interesting and relevant topics to dig into. So, Sonia, let's get into it. What are the latest trends and catalysts propelling the need for a full portfolio of standards to better attain digital transformation?
Okay, digital transformation is actually something that changed completely your company, and it's a process, it's a journey. So in order to do that, you need to be able to start from the top, meaning from the strategy. You need to have a digital strategy. You need to change completely your business and operational model. You need to build new capabilities, not only talking about technical resources or technologies, but also people. You need to train your people. You need to pursue innovation. You need to create your business around the customer centricity. And of course, you need to be able to take advantage of the new technologies, the new trends that are around, like, of course, artificial intelligence, the metaverse, cybersecurity with cybercrime, which is actually a great threat right now at the moment, and the new power of computing right now that is present, and data processing, data analytics, machine learning, and all these new things that are around that. If we don't take advantage of all of that, then we're going to be left behind. That's why there's the need to have this portfolio, this a collection of practices that will allow my company to either start the process if they are in need on this, or either to maintain and especially sustain the digital transformation process and effort. That's the reason why we need that portfolio, and we need to take different perspective. It's not the technology, it's not only the technology, it's not only the people, it's everything that it's around your company.
Sure. And I suppose we used to look at silos within an organization and would have expertise and would have standards that might pertain to them. But nowadays it's important to have a cross-pollination, if you will, and to look at standards not in an isolated part of a company, but across them and how they can support each other. So maybe explain how a full portfolio of standards that are in some ways, if not integrated, complementary is so important.
Yes, I think the key words in here are synergy and cross-collaboration and consistency, because all of our standards are very powerful on their own. For example, we have the TOGAF standard, which is one of the major recognized standards for enterprise architecture. We have the Open Agile architecture for agility. We have the digital practitioner body of knowledge for digital. We have the Archimate standard for modeling in enterprise architecture. We have the IT for IT standard for the IT processing and digital products. But if all of them are used together in a consistent way, they become more powerful. They are greater than the sum of their parts, and they provide you a full and more systemic view of your issues. For example, to make digital transformation possible, you need enterprise architecture, because you need to know and understand your capabilities, your landscape, your actual capabilities, the to-be state and the assist state, to identify the gaps. But you also need to be able to manage digital products. And for that, we have the IT for IT standard. We need to pursue more agility, not only in the development or in the technical processes, but in the business as a whole. You need to become an agile enterprise. For that, we need the OpenAI architecture standard and also the TOGAF standard that has also some content about agility. If you want to have more customer centricity and this learning progression towards digital, we have the deepen that precisely helps you understand how we can start very small and then continue evolving your capabilities, what you're learning in the process on how you can be evolving all those capabilities. So those are the main aspects you need to understand. And the benefit of having this portfolio is the fact that it's not only that the content is in there in the same channel, which is completely HTML. You can cross-navigate between the standards. You can search, make searches, and in those searches, you will find content from the different standards. And we have also added some graphical icons in there because, as you know, people need very rapid solutions to the problems now. So, for example, if you see the landing page from the portfolio of digital open standards, by the way, we released a new version last week in Edinburgh as part of our summit. If you click, for example, in Agile Practice, immediately you will see content from the OpenAI architecture. But from there, you can navigate to the TOGAF standard and you can navigate to the IT for IT standards. So that's in a way that you can, as a practitioner, as a user, you can learn from different practices because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you are using the TOGAF standard or the OpenAI architecture or the deepen. What you want and what you need is a solution to your problem. And you find that through this synergy that we can find in the portfolio.
Sure. Now, the Open Group is a long and venerated organization going back to the standardization around the Unix platform back in the day. We don't need to go that far back, but I would like to put a little context around how the whole concept of a digital portfolio working as a concerted effort among different disparate parts came about. Can you give us some background and history as to how the digital portfolio came about and where it is now?
Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, that's an interesting story. I started back around 2015. I remember that I was in one of the events. I don't remember where exactly, in which country. And I remember being in a meeting, in an internal meeting, in which there were some people, a few member companies started this activity. And at the moment, I was the architecture forum director, but as you know, architecture is closely connected with digital. And the first name of this work group was not Digital Portfolio Work Group, like it is right now, but it was something related digital business and customer experience working. It was a very long name. And the idea was to combine digital with customer centricity. So we started working on that. And at the beginning, it was a very close, a small group of members. Then it was the decision to make it a work group to precisely allow members from different forums to engage, like architecture, Archimate, IT for IT. It started growing and growing. We started delivering a couple of white papers that are already published, that are very good. Eventually, we decided to change the name because it was mostly Digital Practitioner Work Group. That was the name. And in a certain moment, it was also led by a subgroup of platinum members at the board level. That happened around 4 or 5 years ago. They say, okay, we need to move this forward. So besides having content that is related with digital, we need to start providing this content as a digital product. So the delivering standard has code. That's why this small group of members, and it was a war initiative, like I mentioned. It was led by one of our staff members, Dave Lonsbury. He started with this as staff members. He started with this board activity. And the idea was to start taking all this content, put it in an open source platform called GitLab, and produce the output in another open source called Antora that allows us to generate from different GitLab repositories an HTML, completely HTML-based output, which is completely designed to cross-navigate between content, which is the main principle, one of the main principles of of the portfolio. And they also started building the first graphical icons and the first graphical interfaces. So at the moment, like I said, was a board activity led by members. But eventually, around 2 years ago, a little bit more than that, it was decided for that to become part of the staff activity, and of course to be maintained by members in the digital practitioner work group by then. And at the moment, I was moved to that. So I moved from the architect to form space, and I was named like the digital product manager for the portfolio. We decided to change the name to Digital Portfolio Work Group, because we don't only maintain the DP book anymore. We maintain the whole environment. We pursue cross-collaboration. We try to engage members from different forums. So the task now, it has 3 main components. On one is the content, which of course is the one provided for our members. The second is the platform that we have, in which we are producing or delivering our standard as products, as digital products. And the third one is delivering standard as code using also GitLab and Antora, facilitating a more agile, DevOps-oriented way of delivering standards into the market, which I believe is something very, very innovative. We are innovating on this because I don't believe any other standard organization is doing that deeply into standard as code. It might be the case, but we are the ones that are starting at least with this activity. So the story went from being a very small work group that then it became a board activity, a board action. And then it became something that was driven by staff, and of course, with the collaboration of members in the work group. And at the moment, we have already delivered 4 different releases. Since the first one, it was in Edinburgh. I think it was in 2022, when we delivered that in October. After that, we have several releases. We have been adding new standards into the portfolio. We have been adding new guides, because the portfolio is meant to have standards, snapshots, and guides. We started improving the landing pages and creating new landing pages. For example, we added the Archimate specification along with the landing page in the release in October in Houston. For the one that we had last week in Edinburgh, we improved the landing page for the IT for IT standard, which is called the Life Cycle, which also has some links to the DP book. We made some improvements to the general user interface. And very important, we received some feedback from members saying, we need case studies. We need more the how. We have guides, we have standards, but how other people has made this in a practical way. So we start talking with members of the government EA work group and the Archimate, because the Archimate standard, they are the ones that also have several case studies. So we constructed another instance for GitLab and Antora, which is called the case study collection. This case study collection is meant to have case studies from different verticals, and is of course connected with the portfolio. So in the release last week, I gave a demo in which you can click in one of the icons in the portfolio, and you are directed to the second instance where the case studies live. From there, you can go by government, healthcare, you can go to the bank and finance, you can go to physical items like mechanical constructions and things like that. And we have related different case studies in there. At the moment, we have migrated 5 case studies, 2 case studies from Archimate, the Arch Assurance and Archimetal, and the other case studies are from the government EA work group. And we have a very long queue for requests for more content to be added, more guides, more case studies. Also, at the moment, the connection with the TOGAF standard is through the TOGAF standard digital edition, TOGAF standard 10 digital edition. But we have started the migration to also the TOGAF, the whole set of the TOGAF standard into the portfolio, which is the highest priority for the rest of the year. So our objective is to have an incremental ongoing improvement on the portfolio. So that's where we are right now.
Wonderful. Thank you for that comprehensive overview. Let's go up a few thousand feet and start to talk about why this is so important. everybody agrees that digital transformation is essential and integral to their success, but not very many people agree on how to go about it. So as organizations are facing the need to transform, to take into account more than benefits from machine learning and other analytics technologies, what are the challenges? What prevents people from being able to transform and innovate in their organizations as quickly and as powerfully as they'd like?
I think one of the main challenges is to know where you are. That's why enterprise architecture is such an important pillar in this. If you don't know what you have, it is impossible you can have a feasible path ahead to becoming digital. So you need to understand your current state. Do you have a digital strategy? Do you have a strategy at all? And it's clear it has been shared. So when you have your strategy, you have to start having a digital strategy. You start considering, okay, I have already these processes, I have this business line, I have this product. It doesn't matter if you are a company that are completely, I think probably it's easier for companies that are completely in the digital product business, but it can be applicable to all companies. We had a very interesting case, by the way, last week in Edinburgh about a bank in Turkey that made digital transformation. What they did, first they identified their current stage, and then they identified, again, following the enterprise architecture principle, start small, okay? Identify an area that is less difficult to digitize and transform and deliver the first outcome. And then you continue iterating incrementally. So, for example, if you are a company that is having issues with the supply chain, so you go and make a value stream assessment and a value chain assessment and then start identifying what you need to digitize in there. Digitize is put your information in digital format. And sometimes companies, they don't even have that. They may have perhaps information in digital format, but it's not consolidated. So data analytics and data transformation is one of the steps. After you have digitized that, you need to start making the digital transformation with your processes and your capabilities, meaning your people, your applications, your infrastructure. So you start making an assessment on that. For example, do I have the right capabilities for this? If I need to start having a process that is manual, completely automated, and putting it in one of our channels to become more customer facing, so I need to improve the process. I need to train the people, probably hire new people. I need to automate. I need to build a new channel for that. And of course, it comes the application and infrastructure layers of that. So it's a step-by-step process that start with identify where you are, where you want to be, and do that incrementally. That's why when you talk about digital transformation, it's not a one-thing effort. It's a continuous and ongoing process. It's a journey. And you need to start doing that incrementally. In this case of this bank, they started first putting their data in order. They select a critical process and improving it. And then they started improving the channels. And there they started doing more things in digital. They then started taking advantage of other technologies like artificial intelligence, for example, in their channels. But that was like a more later stage. You need to start first with the more simple things that you need to do, because otherwise, if you start just changing things without connection, without the size, the systemic view, you will be lost at the end. And what you will do, for example, people believe that, okay, there's a new technology coming, I will implement it. They don't take considerations about the current infrastructure, the current application, the current capabilities of the people they have, if they have legacy system, if they have people trained. And what they do, if they implement this new technology for the sake of implementing is creating technical debt and creating cybersecurity risks while doing that. That's why, again, risk assessment is another key component of this. If you are transforming, but you are not being aware of the risk, then you are creating another issue for your company. So it's a stepwise process that you need to take and involve several of these. That's why I have always said that it's very similar to make enterprise architecture. Only in this case, to make it with the customer in the center and considering going digital. That's the difference.
Right. And certainly undertakings to do digital transformation can swiftly become very complex and unwieldy. But when you apply structure, pragmatism, documentation, making sure that everyone is on the same page and collaborating accordingly, that complexity becomes much more managed. So as organizations use such things as the open group digital portfolio, what are some of the salient and most important benefits that they'll start to see? Things that are perhaps a little intangible, difficult to measure, but nonetheless very important. What do you get when you do this right?
I think the way to measure that is perhaps one of the more difficult things. One thing that, for example, could be more measurable is if you are delivering a product in a certain amount of time, you improve and digitalize and automate your process, and you spend 2 hours on that. Now you spend an hour and a half. That's a metric. The other one is how efficient your people is becoming, because one of the conditions for becoming digital is to transform your organizational structure for digital. If you have a structure that is too hierarchy, that has a lot of levels, and people don't have the freedom to act, that is very difficult to become agile or to become digital. So when you have autonomous teams, and each one of them has ownership of a specific part of the company or a product or a line of product, and you have a cross-cutting collaboration between them, like multidisciplinary autonomous teams, and you give them ownership, and you start measuring what they are doing, like similar to the sprints in Agile, in which you have a 1 or 2, 3 days cycle, and then you make a retrospective review, and you measure. That's what you need to do, to start measuring. It's not, for example, a good approach wouldn't be to make a 3-month effort and don't measure what you're doing. It's something shorter. It should be smaller cycles. And again, you need to create these autonomous teams. For example, in the OA standard, there's a lot of very good content about autonomous team, and the fact that sometimes we organize our capabilities or physical or human resources following the same structure of the company. So they become very silo-oriented and very functional. The moment that you start seeing, for example, in order to deliver this new product into the market, let's say it's a financial product, a new kind of loan or whatever, I need finance. I need the person that manages loans. I need probably the person that manages legal. I need the person that will handle the insurance policy that will relate with that loan. So all this and of course I need IT people and I need data people. So when I take this group of people together and they become autonomous with a certain level of control, of course, then they should be able to deliver this product to the final line easier and faster than if you have a very hierarchical structure in which you need permit and in which every company only owns and see their own piece of work and not the whole thing. You need to own your process. You need to own your product if you really want to succeed in this.
And of course, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And you mentioned earlier that you're now focusing on some case studies, which I imagine illustrate important use cases. Another way of understanding the benefits of a digital portfolio and enterprise architecture and strategic approach to transformation. You don't have to go into too much detail because I'm sure people will be able to access and review these case studies on their own. But maybe you could go through a few of the new case studies and why these use cases were so salient to begin with.
I think they are important. Some of them, especially the ones from the government EA, are precisely in the government from India. And what they did is they took a project to improve certain area from the government to offer better services to their citizens. And they started improving the process and applications around them. And at the end, what they did is they started measuring the state aid and where they went at the end in terms of citizen satisfaction. And there was a measure for doing that. There was another one that was very interesting that we haven't migrated that yet, which is they use the digitalization and digital transformation to improve the COVID vaccination process. And at the beginning, it was very messy, and they needed, as you know, it was a health issue. It was related with life of people. It was critical. So they started like trying to make this automation. They created this portal in which people should be able to create an appointment for their vaccination, to get there, to get their vaccine, to get their medical control. If they had COVID before, which were the symptoms, which other doses they may need for that. and they made it through the different areas of the country, and they started small, and they were growing and growing. And at the end, even though the COVID emergency is kind of less now, they decided to keep the project going in different stages to use that in other parts of the healthcare system, because healthcare is one of the ones that needs this more. Sometimes healthcare systems are inefficient because they are not connected. You don't connect your supplies, your medicine supplies, with your patients or with your healthcare centers. Sometimes some health centers will have medicine, some others will not have it. And that's also another case study that may be coming soon, probably in the next months, into the portfolio, which is related with our healthcare. As you know, we have a healthcare forum into the open group. We have a reference architecture, which is into improvement. And we have a case study from a hospital, and they are precisely doing that. How I can connect better my different elements in my value chain, which is my healthcare centers, my providers, either for medicine or medical equipment, my patients records and all that. So those are some of the examples of the case studies that we have. Some other is around they implemented an enterprise service bus to be able to improve their processes. They have a process that was not really reusing the services. So they improved that service bus to be able to provide better service to their citizenship. So that was another example of these case studies. Like I said, all of them are on our website, and I invited you to take it over. All of them are very interesting, and the benefit they are using open group standards, but they are also mentioning other practices, because we cannot pretend like we as the open group hold all the responses. There are other standards in the market that are valuable or important. That's why, however, whenever we refer to a third party into our standards or publications, we always ask for permission and legal and all that. But those case studies also have that. They have also connection to external sources that are completely reachable through the case study.
Right. And so now looking to the future, digital transformation now is perhaps under pressure as organizations adjust to more artificial intelligence and analytics, data-driven decision-making. It seems that there's pressure on organizations to move quickly. If their competitors do AI perhaps better than they do, they could find themselves at a disadvantage. So as we look to the future of how digital transformation unfolds and how the digital portfolio can be very instrumental and accelerate their objectives and success, how is the AI impacting this equation? What should we expect over the next several years in terms of how organizations can make AI a friend rather than a foe?
Yes, that's a very good question. And actually, that was one of the main themes in our events last week in Edinburgh. We have a very good presentation there. I think AI has two different ages, like you said. It has the good one, which is it could be very powerful if you use it properly. And you need to be aware that it's not magic. If you have acquired an AI tool or you have partnered with someone that will provide you that tool, you need to be aware that first you need to have the right data for that, the right information to inject into that tool. You need to give that tool a training, because there are some patterns that they have. You need to do programming in that to be able to really the AI to give you the right response. You need to make a special request, and you need to give some training, invest some time on feed data and training into that. In this EA activity can be served you for several purposes. It can be just for cognitive analysis, which is useful on its own. It can be very helpful for giving you decision-making support. And it can be the other side of that, which is generative EA, which is the one that is generating new content from your input. So you put that text or images or content in whatever form, and they should be able to create a video, to create a story, to create a summary, to create a report, to create whatever kind of output do you need. But in order to do that, of course, there are some very critical capabilities that you need to build. And that's why, again, if you are into the middle of your digital transformation and you want to include EA, you need to be sure that you have this capability with you. For example, do I have the right data to feed into that EA tool? Do I have the right text, images, content? Because you need to give context. Even a simple ChatGPT that you use in your phone, if you ask a question and you don't give the context, it will provide a very stupid response. you need to give context. Sometimes the same EA asks you, I need my context. So you need to provide the context. You need to have an algorithm in that EA tool that is able to interpret the data you're giving it, to predict, because as you know, they learn from experience, and to act over that. And you need to be able also to address your output. The output could be a success or it could be a failure. So it's not like because AA told me this, I'm going to use it. And also you need to be adjusting the algorithm they're using, the learning process, the outcomes, analytics. The other thing that is very important is to understand that there are different components around artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, we have a neural network, which is the way that this information is processed, and when they are able to learn from the past experience. They have, of course, there's another one which is called natural learning language processing, which, by the way, is one of the more active working groups into the Open Group. Of course, they need cognitive computing, so we need to be aware that you need resources, infrastructure for this. And now that we are thinking about sustainability, EA is going to become one of the threats in terms of sustainability. We have another very good workshop in Edinburgh last week about the carbon print. And even though AI is good, as all technology could be good, it's actually going to become exponential because it requires a lot of resources, because you need a lot of computing process to be able to generate, especially if you want to generate complex things like a video, a song, or whatever. And of course, you need to have a vision. Why do I need AA for the first place? It's really that I need it, or because it's on fashion? It's because everybody's talking about it. And you need to have the right capabilities on that. For example, you have to have an EA policy. We already have an EA policy at the Open Group that we have shared with our members. For example, confidentiality is one of them. You should be very careful to put some critical information in an EA tool, unless that EA tool is behind a locked, closed door, it's not public, then probably you're fine. But if you take a public tool and you put private data in there, then it can be cybersecurity threats. Cyber criminals are already using it. The other one that you need to have besides this policy is to be able to have some legal decision taken. Legal needs to be involved in that policy. You need to also make a risk assessment before implementing it. And of course, you need to be sure that you have the technical critical capabilities. And there's another important one. You need to teach your people. I think everybody talks about EA, and it's an interesting topic, but we all need to learn more about it, because I know people that are already expert, but we need to learn more about it before using in the company, because it can be threatened. There's already, you may have already heard in the news that there's already criminals using EA to generate fake call. So you receive a call and it's your son, and it's your son's voice telling you that have been kidnapped. So how do you react to that? Or people they're having artists and singers that have been making demand suits because someone has imitated their voice, they're singing using EA. So it can be used very well or very bad, depending on the programming, which is even a little scary. For example, you can use, and it's already being used, you can use drones or small robots in a war zone, for example, just to see if there are people there already alive to get medical care. But you can also use it to kill people, which is sadly happening in wars now. So it's a double edge. I say it's good. I think it's excellent to take advantage of humans we can do with technology, but it can be used. It should be used very carefully, and it should be used knowing that you have the right capabilities, and especially respond the critical question: why do I need EA? How I'm going to implement it, and what I'm going to do with that. I think those should be my advice in that regard.
Great. Well, it sounds like not only is the digital portfolio very important for making your journey to digital transformation smoother and faster, but it certainly also sounds like it's very important to mitigate the risk when it comes to adopting artificial intelligence and similar technologies. So that's very exciting for the future, and I hope we get a chance to talk about that more. Before we close out, Sonia, please help our readers and listeners understand how they can become more actively involved with the Open Group in terms of events, certifications, resources, and specifically how they can start to avail themselves of the digital portfolio.
Okay, thank you for that. First, I will invite our listener to go to our website. In there, you will have important information about all of our standards. In the main page, you have to go a little bit down. You will find something called the Portfolio of Digital Open Standards. In there, you can read what it is. You can click and you will know more about it. There's a video from our co-chair, and you can click and actually you can experiment with the thing live. It's completely live now. And you can start navigating in there, trying it. You can make searches. You can go to the case study collection. And more importantly, please give us your feedback. There's a small icon in the right top of the screen in which you can click in there and send us your feedback. It's completely private. That feedback is only seen by the Open Group staff. It's not going to be, so don't be shy about putting your email in there because it's something that we treat very carefully. Also in our website, we have information about certification. Also in certification, we are going into a learning progression. The ones of you that are familiar with the TOGAF certification program is going now into this batch program in which you become certified in level 1 and 2 in the TOGAF standard, but then you can become specialized in business architecture, risk and security, agile, digital. So we have decoupled that precisely to give this more agility. And we are going to follow a similar one for the DP book that's already plans to restructure the DP book and to also restructure the certification program. And more importantly, if you want to contribute with us, besides giving us feedback, you can become a member of the Open Group. It has a lot of advantages. You can go in our website. In there, you will have information how to become a member. In there, you will see what's the cost for a silver, gold, or platinum member. You will see a little bit about the benefit. You can ask for more information, reaching our business team. And if my email is going to be as additional information in the podcast, please reach me, drop me an email, and I'll be more than happy to help you through the portfolio. You don't have to be a member to have some kind of like an onboarding session with me. I can give you any moment an onboarding session and explain you what we are doing. Either if you want to just know the portfolio or you want to become a member, we can also engage with our business team for them to give more explanation about the process to become a member. If you want to become certified and if you're not sure how is the process, also you can reach me. If you are a tool member and a tool vendor, and you want to certify your tool, you can also go to the Open Group and can reach me, and I can lead you to our certification team people, and they should be able to serve you. And also, please go to our social media. We have our YouTube channel. In there, you will see a lot of videos, Tuesday toolkits, testimonials. We have a blog. We recently published a blog about the digital portfolio. We are going to soon publish a survey. It's going to be sent to our social media, probably LinkedIn. So be aware of that. Also, we have our podcast like this one, our blogs, YouTube. So use our social media. You will find a lot of information in there. And in terms of proceedings, you can also, especially if you attended the session, you can go to the proceeding and see what we discussed last week about artificial intelligence. Ecosystem architecture is another topic that we are taking very, very seriously at the Open Groups. Sustainability is another one, like I mentioned. Sometimes there's a trade-off between technology and the environment, which is becoming more and more relevant now. So reach us through our social media, through email, or through our webpage, and we will be more than happy to give you more information.
Well, great. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening to a sponsored Briefings Direct discussion on how a comprehensive portfolio of open standards and associated best practices powerfully supports analytics-rich digital business transformation. And we've learned how the Open Group's latest digital portfolio of standards and methods instructs innovation internally to match the demands of a rapidly changing, increasingly competitive, and analytics-intensive global marketplace. So a big thank you to our expert guest. We've been here with Sonia Gonzalez, Digital Portfolio Product Manager at the Open Group. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Thank you very much, Dana, again for having me. And thank you to our listener to listen to the podcast and provide your feedback. Thank you.
Yes, a big thank you to our audience for joining this Briefings Direct Strategic Enterprise Architecture discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of insightful discussions sponsored by the Open Group. Thanks again for listening. Please pass this along to your enterprise architecture and business agility communities, and do come back next time.